Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to talk about the U.S. Army 3D printing drones, Stratasys working with Trinkle, and some updates from the Japanese 3D printing world. And then finishing it off, of course, with your questions from last week's podcast and talking about what it's like to work at Slant 3D and who is successful here. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is our 3D print on demand app. You can connect any e-commerce store to it, and we will print and ship items directly to your customers for you. This allows new 3D printing businesses to grow and existing 3D printing businesses to expand. You have access to hundreds of 3D printers instantly for free. All you have to do is upload a model, and whenever you get an order, we will print and ship that item directly to your customer for you. So you can focus on creating amazing products or learning to take care of your customers even better. So check out Teleport today at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. The link is down in the description. Alrighty, so first piece of news this week, Stratasys and Trinkle announce strategic software partnership. So for those of you who don't know, Trinkle is a software company that has a piece of software called FixtureMate. And FixtureMate allows you to really easily generate 3D models for fixtures inside of a factory. They've had this software for about 2 years. We've actually worked with them on a few projects before. I think we may have even actually done a video about it once or twice. I'm not sure. But anyhow, their FixtureMate software is really useful for making jigs and fixtures inside of factories. Stratasys has 3D printers and 3D printers that are very often in commercial settings. So this partnership makes a lot of sense. The quote from the article per 3dprint.com is, "Together, we're removing one of the biggest barriers in additive manufacturing, the need for specialized CAD skills and the cost associated with manual design process," explained Trinkle CEO and co-founder Florian Reichel. "With FixtureMate, anyone, regardless of design experience, can create custom production-ready fixtures in just minutes. By integrating FixtureMate with GrabCAD Print Pro, which is what Stratasys is bringing to the partnership, we're making it easier than ever for manufacturers to create custom production-ready fixtures in minutes, eliminating bottlenecks, accelerating workflows, and maximizing the value of additive manufacturing." So yes, FixtureMate is going to be integrated into Stratasys' GrabCAD Print Pro software in order to make custom fixture design easier. And like I say, this is a really natural partnership because Stratasys has the production machines that can create these jigs, and through GrabCAD, their software there, they have a means of distribution through GrabCAD in order to create more of these fixtures. So it's a really natural sort of partnership. And it's cool to see. I'm glad Trinkle is kind of getting that distribution because their FixtureMate software has been really cool. And I do recommend taking a look at it. And in fact, if you wanted to make jigs and fixtures for like consumer products or like fly tying guys or something like that, you could do it in FixtureMate, and then you could upload those models to Teleport, and then we could print and ship them to you. So just throwing that out there, just because, you know. Okay, next news story, also per 3dprint.com. U.S. Army considers 3D printing for mass UAS production. According to Breaking Defense, the head of U.S. Army Futures Command, General James Rainey, told an audience at the U.S. Army's Global Force Symposium and Exhibition that the branch is currently assessing its capabilities for 3D printed drone production towards the objective of a potential scale-up in the near future. Rainey noted that thus far, the endeavor has taken the form of 3D printing drone swarms that mimic enemy forces' unmanned aircraft systems. "What we need right now is the ability to replicate the UAS threat during the training at home station," Rainey reportedly told the crowd at Global Force. "So Bradley platoon, tank platoon, shooting gunnery, we got to be able to swarm UAVs on a platoon. We got to be able to replicate that threat, and we need to be able to do it at a price point that's ridiculously low. We don't need the Gucci cameras and everything else." So with this, they're effectively 3D printing facades for existing drones so that they can take, I'm not going to say a DJI drone, but they might be using those for training purposes. But take kind of like a consumer or low-cost drone and dress it up so it looks like a drone that would be seen in enemy combat and that kind of stuff. So that soldiers can learn how to identify drones, learn how to engage with them, and when you blow them all up, not feel bad about it that you just blew up a $10,000 camera on top of a drone. So this is really, and when they say they're addressing their capabilities, they're just saying like, how can we get these things made? Because we're messing around with it. It might be useful. It's kind of less than what you would hope for. And as far as mass production, a few hundred, maybe a few thousand or something would go this direction. But hey, Army, if you need a whole bunch of plastic drones made or drone facades built, reach out to us. We can print a whole mess of those shells for you. Or if somebody out there is watching who wants to just go get that contract and then contract us to fulfill your contract, go crazy. That's fine. Okay. All right. Next piece of news. Fictiv sold to Japan's Misumi for $350 million. For context, again, Misumi, if you're not familiar, Misumi makes custom automation hardware for people. So if you are working in industrial production or building a factory or whatever it was, you will probably end up using Misumi for some part of it. Air components, bearings, extrusion cut to length, that kind of stuff. Misumi is equivalent to McMaster-Carr for looking for componentry if you're building an assembly line or something like that. Fictiv was started a little over 10 years ago, 2014, 2015 or so. Fictiv was started up as a 3D print service and then went the direction of mini print services, which was to turn into a protolab Xometry where they had CNC machining and injection molding all added into it. Fictiv also used kind of the crowdsource model where they don't actually own the production capabilities. They are a platform, they're a marketplace where existing 3D print service providers can sign up, become a partner of Fictiv, and then when Fictiv gets an order, it is routed to whatever production partner is able to take it. We during 2020 or so, we ended up working with Fictiv on some of this stuff to try to get FDM into it. But anyhow, yeah, Fictiv doing all right. A $350 million exit is not too shabby. For comparison, Proto Labs and Xometry right now, which I would say are arguably bigger than Fictiv, are both worth, actually, I'm not even sure what they're worth right now. Less than $1 billion. Proto Labs might be $2 billion, actually. Proto Labs is $792 million. So I can believe that. And Fictiv also would have been bought kind of at a premium because Misumi is trying to enter this market. So it's not like the same as a public market valuation. It's slightly above what they're worth. Like if their actual worth was, if they were bought on the public stock exchange, they'd probably be worth like $300 million, maybe 250, and then Misumi would buy a plus value of that. So the shareholders are good with it. The deal is subject to regulatory approvals. But the statement here, Fictiv was founded with a clear mission, simplify the complex world of manufacturing. Yeah, corporate speak. They have 4 manufacturing hubs across India, Mexico, China, and the US, and has delivered more than 35 million parts for a wide range of industries, including aerospace, robotics, and clean energy. There were some weird notes on there or whatever else it was. Fictiv has, I did not know that Fictiv had started integrating their own manufacturing hubs. This puts them much closer to like Proto Labs. Like Proto Labs, oh no, Proto Labs doesn't do this. Proto Labs bought hubs a few years ago, 3D hubs a few years ago, in order to get a network of manufacturers, which is what Fictiv had. But Proto Labs had existing manufacturing facilities. Fictiv seems to have done the reverse of that, where they had a swarm of people and then they started building their hubs. But that's a fantastic exit, and Misumi most certainly has the cash and is a well-established company. So it's nifty to see, and congratulations, guys! Congratulations, Fictiv. That is a win for the 3D printing industry. Fictiv is a 3D printing company, even though they turned into more of a manufacturing services company. I would make the argument that companies like Xometry and Proto Labs don't really count as 3D printing companies because their valuation and the work they do is not from the 3D printing parts of the workflow. It's from the machining and the molding parts of the workflow. So to say it's a 3D printing thing, it's reaching for the news because it's not a pure 3D printing play, but that's okay. Okay, Fortissimo Capital completes $100 million acquisition of 14% of Stratasys shares. CEO Yav Sev, I apologize if I'm butchering that, steps down from the board. So Fortissimo Capital is an activist investor that's been getting involved with Stratasys for a bit. They have been working to close this investment for a while. For a second there, when that first came through, I thought it was the same thing as the guys who took over Nano Dimension. But there's kind of a common thread here. The original CEO of Yavziv is going to be stepping down from the Stratasys board and will no longer be CEO. Yuval Cohen will be taking his spot as CEO and I assume head of the board. This is interesting. The reason this is interesting is not only is it more kind of public drama with Israel-based 3D printing companies, but Nano Dimension was effectively taken over by an activist investor. This is Fortissimo Capital is effectively taking over Stratasys. I'll bet there will be more consolidation in the future because like Nano Dimension and Stratasys attempting to merge earlier, that was either flummoxed because of this or it will come back around because of this. So when these types of guys, financial types of guys, end up kind of taking over the company, you would kind of have an anticipation that more consolidation is in the future and that or more partnership is in the future. Because Stratasys and Nano Dimension, all the public 3D printing companies have not been profitable for the last several years. They have not been operating well. They haven't been able to catch the waves of where the world is going. So it's been rough for them in a couple of different ways. So these investors see that there is value with the 3D printing, but there's obviously, they perceive as waste somewhere inside of there. So they're like, hoorah, we're going to take over and we're going to clean this up. For better or worse, however you feel about it. So anyhow, okay. So that is that. Now, company updates. Next segment coming in here, 1749. Company updates. First thing, Tangled. So, Tangled. We're getting caught up. We had a video go out last week about tariffs. I recommend watching it. It wasn't that bad. Trying a new format. But a video went out about formats, tariffs, and of course all the tariff snafu going on, which we're not going to talk about, is created a perfect storm to where a bunch of people ended up buying Tangled. So we were getting caught up and then it reached out again. So right now, turnaround time on Tangled orders is probably about 7 days, maybe 10 on the outside if you had like a big old bulk order. A few print farms ordered large quantities, like a few hundred kilograms or so, which also kind of threw a wrench into the works. Because we were working on subscribers, and a subscriber is supposed to order a certain amount of filament. And if you're an abnormal subscriber, you cause these problems. But so anyhow, we produced this material. Excuse me. We're getting caught up. We're getting another extruder in line for Tangled, and we're expanding the team. So like Tangled right now has 2 kind of committed people to it. We're adding a third, just working on Tangled. So both website, production, packaging, all that kind of stuff. So it's good. We're going to get ahead of this. We are going to get ahead of this. In addition to that, though, we also introduced some new stuff. So with Tangled, we've been saying that we were going to introduce new colors in partnership. We have, and we are, and they are. So right now on Tangled, a few of them are ready to buy right now, but they might already be sold out, so they're into pre-order. But there are 7 colors available for pre-order right now, maybe more, that are Polymaker filament. Polymaker is our filament partner on Tangled. So we've effectively become a retailer for Polymaker filament. The benefit to y'all is the fact that, yes, we are a retailer, but we don't have to maintain the same margins as other retailers. So we're able to, since we have so much scale through Tangled and through our own print farm operations, we are able to purchase Polymaker filament in bulk at good wholesale prices and then sell that to you for just a little bit margin on top for members. It is for members only. But that stuff is available to purchase, and you're able to get it cheaper than any other place than you would probably go shipping. So that is the advantage of membership. It will give you access to those colors. Those colors are the colors that are used inside of Teleport. So leading into Teleport. Within Teleport, we're building up more and more of the infrastructure about how to use it and get the resources that you need. And color swatches have been a big one. Almost a lot of people go through and order a color, one of each color, all the way through. So we're working on getting swatches up, but the filaments, the colors inside of Teleport are from Polymaker because they're good, consistent color over time, and they've been scaling up their production, and they're operating on a roadmap that we agree with. So as a supplier, we don't mind having them. But at the same time, we will continue to produce our own filament internally and that kind of stuff. So like baseline colors will always be ours, and then additional like sort of, I'm going to say fashionable colors will probably be coming from Polymaker. Okay, so there's all that stuff. But yeah, Teleport, you will now have access to filament that is used for the colors inside of Teleport. The reason we paused on that is because we weren't certain how many people actually wanted to use it and if it created noise. But yes, now that filament is also readily available through Tangled to where you can get a good deal on it and that kind of stuff too, we're happier about sharing that and getting it out there. It is not $10 filament. It's not going to be a $10 filament because that doesn't work in retail. That only works direct to consumer and directly from the manufacturer. So our black will continue to be $10 per kilogram, and then the other colors will continue to build out kind of the retail footprint of Tangled so that you can get really good value 3D printing resources, starting with materials through Tangled. And we're just going to keep on pushing to improve the value of that subscription. So $7 a month, and you get $10 filament that's black, and then low-cost filaments in other colors through our retail partnerships. So that's kind of the direction that Tangled is moving in. And it allows us to improve the support of Teleport because now you can purchase the filaments that are used inside of Teleport to test yourself and to prototype with and all the rest of it. So that can speed up your iteration cycle of creating products, and then they transfer directly to Teleport. You still want to order prototypes to make sure that there's translation in machines, but we'll continue making design videos so that hopefully the necessity for that translation isn't around. We have a really good video coming out around design of robust 3D prints that I think will work very well. Okay. Other updates with Teleport? I don't think so. I don't think we had anything major there that I was supposed to be doing. Tangled, Teleport, other company updates. YouTube channel. Hey, this is like news. Check out the new studio. Like, you probably don't radically notice the change, but we really do. So we've moved into a different space. We were upstairs and we're downstairs. This used to be our old conference room. And we have absorbed all of it, and back there is stuff. But right here, we've got new camera, new view, new angle. Hey, all this stuff. I have a computer right here, computer right here. We got better backlighting, and we're going to be building this whole wall out more and more and more. And we can do all kinds of different stuff here. But this is going to be really good. We're building out the live streaming setup, screen sharing for different sorts of videos. A lot of the content that will be shot down here, and especially like here at the workspace, will be for the Slant POD channel. So the POD channel will be about how to use certain tools, resources for setting up a 3D printing business, that kind of stuff. That's what we're building up over there. So yeah, the YouTube channel, this is the next evolution. We're gonna change this backspace. Like, this is baseline. This is the old studio set basically. But we're evolving it a little bit, and it will continue to change. Also, down here, I'm getting used to this, but we have a viewfinder down here that we didn't used to have. I used to just stare into the camera. And this is great to make sure I'm framing stuff up, because like I know I'm right at the edge of the frame, right there. That's the edge of the frame. I didn't used to be able to know how to do that. I just stayed here inside my box. But now I can do it down here. But the problem is that now I look down at myself. So staying into camera and looking at you guys the way I'm supposed to is a slight change, which is why we're warming this up inside of podcast. If you stayed till the end of podcast last week, you saw this already. But anyhow, okay. Moving on to the next thing. Discussion topic. Okay. Working at Slant 3D. Got a sheet here. This is from our handbook. This has our culture statement and stuff on it. We are hiring at Slant 3D. So we've got just a couple of positions open, and we're going through and to review some resumes and that kind of stuff. But we are hiring for, let me make sure I'm hitting everything. Content and software are the main areas. We have production staff too, but that's less relevant to people who are on the YouTube channel because you have to be in Boise. The other people have to be in Boise too, but you might want to move if you're a new student. I'll start with content. So we want to expand the amount of content that we're producing, and we also want to expand to other platforms. We have been very stringent about pretty much focusing exclusively on YouTube because this is what we know, this is what we're good at, and there's no way that we have bottomed it out yet. So we can certainly do more stuff on YouTube like this here in the set, me talking to the camera. Here's the problem though. I have a day job. I am the CEO of the company. I have other things that I have to do, so I cannot actually film videos for 12 hours a day in order to create 12 hours of content across 5 YouTube channels. So kind of a philosophy that we have right here is like, okay, whatever we're doing, what do we need to do 10x that much? And content, well, if we wanted to make 10x more videos, that means Gabe is in studio for 10 times more hours. And that's not tenable. So we are looking for hosts for these type of videos, hosts for like our core channel videos. But more specifically, we're also looking for someone who is TikTok exclusive. If you are a marketing focused type person who understands how content marketing actually works, which is you don't make an ad, you make a video that people actually want to watch. Like at the beginning of this podcast, we talk about the news so that people watch the podcast for the news and maybe they'll pick up something else as we go through the rest of the things. But if you can understand that and understand how content marketing works, reach out to us. You also need to prove that you understand short form content. Short form content is a different beast from this. This podcast is our uber long form, and then our long form 5 to 10 minute videos throughout the rest of the channel are of an ilk and style that does not translate to TikTok or Reels and that kind of stuff. So if you do not understand that delineation, you can't apply to this job. Don't apply to this job because we're going to throw your resume. We basically are looking for someone who falls in the category of like failed TikToker. Like you gave it a shot, you enjoyed TikTok, you were probably kind of good at it, but you couldn't really make a living at it and that kind of thing. But you now want to do something with it and you like what we do, so you want to join up. Probably, stereotypically, you're probably going to be in the Gen Z generation because that's who understands TikTok. Not prejudiced about it or whatever else it was, but stereotypically, that's generally who knows most about TikTok. Yes, we're looking for a short form video content creator. You have to be comfortable on camera. In addition to that, a thing we have discussed is kind of contract hiring people to help with like tutorial generation and like demo creation for Teleport and other tools around the internet for creating 3D models and businesses there. So if this is independent of platform. This tutorial content creator can be anybody on any platform. We're mainly focusing on YouTube with that. But again, you would be a person who would learn the piece of software or learn the demo and then run through the demo. You might be doing demos of individual features of Teleport itself. You might go over Maker World and show how to use the AI model generator, those types of things. So we just want to build up video resources of using all these tools. So if you are an existing content creator and you want like a sponsorship to make those types of videos, you can reach out that direction. If you're a contractor who wants to work remote and you want just like a bounty and you make 10 videos and we pay you so much per video, there's that. If you want to become an employee and we hire you to make those types of videos, that's an option too. Quite frankly, we're leaving that one kind of open-ended because we're not entirely sure the best way of working at it right now. So yes, TikTok marketing, short form content person, tutorial creation content person, developer. We are looking for additional developers, mainly backend. You have to have experience inside of e-commerce. You have to understand how to structure a cart. When I say how to create a user experience, how to do analytics and understand the difference between sales tax and real tax and cost of goods and those types of things. You have to understand the mechanisms of how the world works. You cannot be a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed developer who works in a perfect development world. You have to deal with you have to have operational expertise. Ideally, you have created a print-on-demand store sometime in your life so that you understand what it is that we're like doing. Maybe a Shopify store or any sort of e-commerce business. That would give you the context that you need. If you are a purist developer, I don't care if you're frickin' Ilya Sutskever. I can't use you if you don't understand how our product is meant to operate or how similar products operate. You need to understand the dynamics of the e-commerce world. That all being said, this developer position will be working on our back-end systems. So analytics, optimization, bug detection, that kind of stuff. So helping to make the systems more robust, self-robust, to where it's not user-reported error problems, but the system is really pinging itself and taking its own heartbeat and then seeing where people are going. So the analytics of user behavior, that kind of stuff. Those are all the back-end operations that we're looking at expanding here, because we want Teleport to get into a stage of accelerating improvement here. And we've got a lot of the stuff in place already to where that's going to start happening. The normal users out there of Teleport will start noticing this more. But yes, we need to expand the team of that. So a back-end operations developer. If you're competent at that, that's great. You may have noticed in none of these descriptions did I say anything about you needing to know anything about 3D printing. You do not. And actually, it's probably best if you do not. Of the people on the team of Slant 3D right now, the only person who had any experience with 3D printing prior to this company was me. And I did not like 3D printing coming into this company. We almost have a 0% success rate of people who have a printer at home and come to work here because they have so many misconceptions going from hobby 3D printing to large-scale 3D printing. The rules are different. It's like having somebody who knows how to carve chairs and telling them to build an assembly line. There's no connection there. There's no correlation there at all. There's no shared experience there at all. So, no, you do not have to have a experience with 3D printing. I understand I'm talking to my audience, and all of you guys work with 3D printing. But if there's somebody out there who's just like curious, like 3D printing curious, but actually hasn't engaged with it in a meaningful way or has never had a machine, you're actually probably a fairly good fit because you're fresh to where we can teach you and train you the things that matter. That all being said, that is leads us into what are the type of people that are successful at Slant 3D, and we've never really talked about this before, and we're gonna use a couple of these podcasts here to like unpack the Slant 3D culture, because there is one, and we're actually quite intentional about it. The culture statement, the Slant 3D culture statement here, the core values, which are 12 things right now, I'm trying to get those boiled down to about 8. They've been 12 for the last 2 years or so, but we need to boil them down to about 8. We have a secondary section that's called a good Slant 3D employee, to where we have observed the people who are able to stay here for multiple years and are able to stick it out and do really well here and thrive here rather than getting miserable here and leaving or whatever it was. There's a few kind of key things they all have in common that allows them to do really well at Slant 3D. because we are a very different type of company from what people really realize. Yes, we are a startup, so there's all that stuff, but I would say we're a much more intentional startup than most, because we kind of know what we're doing and there is experience inside of the building, while at the same time dealing with all the startupiness of trying to figure out the right way of doing it. Okay, so what makes a good Slant 3D employee? People who do well here and thrive here. A good Slant 3D employee has a bias for action. You do not need to be told what to do. You can see what needs to be done. And if you do not know what needs to be done, you will do something. This is a very simple thing, but there are people who literally, once they finish off their checklist, they scroll through Instagram for the remainder of the day. That does not fly here. You have to be looking for the next thing, because there is not dead time. You are 8 functional hours per day, 40 functional hours per week at minimum. So you have to be finding something to do. I do not believe in micromanagement. I will train you and I will tune you and I will direct you and I will send you emails and inputs and that kind of stuff. And so will everybody else. But I do not want to tell you the next thing to do all the time. That is micromanagement, and that is you not knowing what your job is. If we have not scoped out what you're supposed to be doing to where you always know where the next thing is, we have failed, but you should be looking for the other stuff. And quite frankly, I don't care if you're a software developer. If you're all done with your stuff, you can go sweep a floor someplace. We got stuff to do. Go help someplace. So bias for action. If you're standing around, you won't make it. If that is your default state to stand around, you'll get eaten alive. So anyhow, number 2, taste. Slant 3D has historically been a very engineering focused type of company, to where it's like form over function. But that's not really true. The very fact that we do this YouTube channel, and I would say do it quite well, and we spent a lot of time getting this lighting right. We do care about presentation and taste and proportion and user experience quite a bit. That has to be tempered with getting a product out the door, because that can be a bottomless swirl. But everybody who works here tends to have some sort of artistic background. So our lead developer right now was an artist for many years until he got tired of being broke, and then he became a software developer. Everybody else inside the company has some hobby or side hustle or something like that, to where they engage with the art even though they have like a functional job here. Myself, I like stand-up comedy and playing piano and that kind of thing. So all of us have an appreciation for the finer things, while at the same time knocking out filament and building machinery. So the people who survive here have that same sort of taste, because whenever we go into creating a product or doing a customer experience, we're like, does that look good? Does this feel good? Does this work? It also helps you just to see the good and the bad and the ugly. Like, there are some people who cannot see messes. Artistic people always see messes. So literally, like, is this space clean, dirty, and organized? Artistic people have a better way of telling that than non-artistic people, quite frankly. Like, I have known artists that are slobs, but very few of them. Most of them are quite persnickety. But yes, taste. Everybody here has some taste that gives them an insight to the world. And that generally manifests as some form of artistic interest. Number 3, humbly confident. Confidence without ego. These sound like an oxymoron, but they're not. Someone can be very confident, as in they are assured of their opinion and they're able to present it without being a dick. That's the whole thing. You can argue about a point and fully believe your opinion, your direction, your take on it, without being a jerk to the other person or the people around you, to where it's not browbeating, but to where it's snide or condescending. The thing to watch out for is condescension, because that kills all kinds of stuff and just makes people hate people. So being humbly confident just means like, I think we should do it this way because of this, that, and the other thing. And we're like, I think I should do it this way because of this, that, and the other thing. And we're like, dude, this doesn't work. And it's like, that doesn't work. Look at this. And it allows the conversation to happen. So humbly confident, patiently ambitious. I'll tell you, at Slant 3D, we have a monstrous time keeping salespeople around. I have tried doing it multiple times, but we have in our very bones, we realize that everything we're going to do is going to take years, months, or years to have it start to bear fruit. Something like this YouTube channel. We had to make several hundred videos on this YouTube channel before it started to become a thing. And over that time, we got better, but we had committed to, hey, we're going to make a video per week until we see signal. And until we figure out what we're doing. And then as it started accelerating, we made more videos. And then you get a bigger dopamine hit and you keep on going. But it took a long time. But we kept on driving at it. We're like, okay, we're going to do this YouTube thing. We're going to do this YouTube thing. We're going to push on it hard. We're going to study. We're going to learn how this works. But we're going to understand that it will take a while to see that thing bear fruit. The reason this philosophy is really bad for some people is because it's like going to the gym. If you want to get jacked, you have to go to the gym every day for 6 months. And at the end of those 6 months, you'll be jacked. But in the first 2 to 3 months, you ain't going to see a darn thing. You're not going to have any sort of beach body or anything else. And that's very tough to get through for a lot of folks. But that is what we do every day with every one of the initiatives that we go after. They are long and hard, and we're going to drive at them like we're going to the gym. But we are going to understand it's going to take time. This is why salespeople burn out. A salesperson needs a win in the first week, and then in the third week, and then in the first month, and then every month after that. And those wins have to increase in value. And if the win is ever down from the previous win, or if there is a dry spell, that salesperson loses their cool so fast. So yeah, that's the thing that comes up. Number 5, interested in their job when they're not here. This does not mean that you're working when you're not here. It means that you can go live the rest of your life, and when something pops up that is an opportunity that can apply to your job, you recognize it. It doesn't mean that you isolate your job from your life of like, clocked out, I'm not going to think about my job at all, and my job is not going to engage with my normal life at all. So that versus somebody who's like, clocked out, but this weekend I'm going to watch some videos about video editing because I like it. And then and if something comes up in my Instagram feed that's like, oh, that's kind of interesting, I could probably use that at work, I'm going to tag it and then open it back up at work. That's the thing, to where just when opportunities come up, you recognize them in relation to your job. You don't have to act on them right then. You don't have to do the work right then and do 6 hours of work on the weekend because a cool idea popped up. But you don't isolate your job from your core life. Everyone who works here allows some part of their job to run in the back of their brain while they're living their life, to where they can take the opportunities from there. Of like, oh, I ran into a 3D printer guy out there on the street, and he said he tried out Teleport. And I said, hey, man, well, what'd you think? And he said, well, it was pretty cool, but there was this. I was like, oh, cool. I'll let the guys know about that on Monday. That kind of a thing. Allow serendipity in normal life to help your job. Number 6, resilient, able to take a hit and move on. We do a lot of experimentation. We will try probably 5 to 10 things, and maybe one of them will work. And when that works, then we run with it. But there's those 5 or 10 failures that are along the way. And a lot of people are not good at handling those failures. So anybody who works here is able to take those hits. I'm going to use software as an example on this one. Last year, we built 4 early iterations of Teleport. From like the Etsy plugin to the Shopify plugin until ultimately getting to Teleport. Those first versions were scrapped after they were built, and the software team worked really hard on them. But we scrapped them because they were no longer relevant. They were failed products. And it hurts when your project is a failure, or when you make a video and it doesn't hit, or whatever else it was, or you create a new product feature and nobody uses it, whatever it happens to be. But you have to be able to take those failings as the learnings that they are and say, cool, we just learned how not to do that. Now let's move on and get closer to target the next time around. Sweet. So you have to be resilient and be able to take those hits. And again, we will spend a long period of time working on something with very modest success before it finally hits and you get to have the big win. So yeah, we worked on YouTube. Well, the YouTube actually ramped pretty well. We got signal on that in about the first month or so. And then we kept on pushing on it and it kept on growing. So it had actually a fairly fast feedback loop, but it was a long haul to get to the 100,000 subscribers. That was a year and a half or so. Okay. And lastly, professional pride in your work. Do you self-improve? Do you feel pain when it's incomplete or bad? That's one of the ones to work here. This is like working in post-processing. Do you ship crap through, or do you try to make it the best it can be? Or do you just allow it to be? Yeah, those are the things about people who do best at Slant 3D. Those qualities of personality seem to do well at Slant 3D. These, by the way, are separate from our core culture statements, like frugality and being concise and having a backbone. Those are wholly separate things that are things that the organization as a whole aspires to, but that we can help each other as a team with. Whereas these things are kind of the non-negotiables in the psyche of the person in order for them to survive here. So if you're interested in applying for a job at Slant 3D, you have to have a bias for action. You have to have some level of taste, be humbly confident, patiently ambitious, interested in your job when you're not at your job, resilient, and have professional pride in what it is you're creating. So if you can do those things, you'll probably do all right here, or you'd be a reasonable fit, or at least a reasonable possibility for a job here. So yeah, within that, again, we're looking for a software developer, tutorial creators, and short form content creator. So if you are interested in either of those jobs, you're about to graduate from a marketing department someplace, reach out to us and we'll talk to you about it a little bit. Okay. Final section, questions. 46, timestamp. Cool. Questions from last week's podcast. So any of you who are new, if you comment question, what your question is down at the bottom, then we will search for that question, and answer those questions from last week's podcast at this week's podcast. Okay, so question. Do Tangled members have access to colors or just black like non-members? What you have access to just black like non-members, but it's cheaper and you get priority. Non-member orders ship after all member orders are shipped. Them's the rules. So you don't really have like a guaranteed lead time as a non-member. It will ship when it's available. It's much more like a pre-order. But I honestly don't know why anybody would not do the membership, because you can get the membership, get cheaper shipping, get cheaper filament, and then cancel the membership if you really don't want it. Or you can buy the stuff at regular retail outside. But yes, whatever you see, we're working to change this because a lot of people have commented or asked, I'm not going to get the membership because I don't know what I'm getting. And we've forgotten that not everybody here has been here, not everybody buying has been here the whole time. And they don't know that we only make black PLA. And that's the only thing available on Tangled. Until this week. You NAT members do now have access to discounted Polymaker colors of PLA. And we will be releasing some additional materials as well inside of Tangled for members. We're figuring out how to show the grayed out version of the member store, or the locked version of the member store. That's around the web dev side and just the amount of time that we have to work on it. Question on Teleport, third-party components. What made you choose to offer M2x12 screws? Why these screws over other ones? There's a bajillion different screws out there. It was really tough to settle it in on one, but that was the one that basically got the most votes. When we were prepping with clients and that kind of stuff. We'll probably introduce some M3 screws at some point in the future, but right now M2x12s are the most universal. They're fine enough to where they can go around the outer edge of a thing, the outer edge of something like a cosplay helmet, and attach it together without making it really thick. Do you have any suggestions on how to integrate these into printed parts? No idea. Whatever it is that you need a screw on your part. I don't recommend using screws for any type of 3D printed part. Design snaps into the parts, but the screws are there, and people do use them. A lot of people do just like sacrificial holes to where they screw the screw in once and set it in there. You can do like the circle with the three little dots around the outside of it, to where those dots are the sacrificial feature inside of the hole, but there's room for the rest of the material to go. Okay, question. I'd like to know if Slant 3D can also help with assemble and integration of third-party electronic components, specifically big ol' long list. No, we don't do assembly. We do not do assembly of the parts. We throw all the parts and the third-party parts that are available into the box. You have third-party parts that you can select from, but those are the only options. We do not do custom third-party parts or anything like that. You have to pick from the existing catalog of third-party parts, and we will throw them into the box, and then your customer has to put them together IKEA style, which I think is a really bigger benefit than many people realize, because number one, you don't have to worry about us putting it together wrong and then your customer having a bad experience. You simply give the customer a QR code link to your website when they buy it from your store, or send them an email or something, and then they can put it together. They get greater ownership of the part, which, by the way, is a secret of IKEA. Being able to put together your furniture makes you like the furniture more. Also, when you put it together yourself, you have greater patience for the manufacturer, because if you put it together wrong and mess it up, it's on you rather than the manufacturer. So it can be useful in that context. But no, yeah, we don't do third-party assembly because there's so many different parts in Teleport. We have enough problems making sure that your parts are what you expect when you're using different printer settings from what Teleport uses. And when everybody's making all the different colors and different materials and different geometries and different support structures and blah, 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 blah. Putting in assembly is just another opportunity for something to go wrong. And when you're building a manufacturing system as complex as what Teleport is, you need as few variables as possible. So we're minimizing variables. Question. This week you answered a question about lithophanes and the maximum wall thickness of 4 perimeters. 1.6 millimeters total. Currently, I am designing a very watertight part under the assumption of Teleport's 1 millimeter walls, plus an internal void to double it. This attempts to a total of 2 millimeter contiguous perimeter walls with no infill spaces or weird gap fill. How do we end up with only with 0.4 perimeters in your example? Second, is it possible to double this using an internal void to get to 3.2? How do we end up with 0.4 millimeter perimeters in your example? Make it 1.6 millimeters, make the wall 1.6 millimeters thick. I'd go to 1.7 and it'll round down, but you definitely have space for the 4 walls then. I think that's the answer to it. Putting in an internal void is in like, for everybody else, what this would be like an internal slit to where you induce thicker walls. That is doable and works. That slit would need to be, I think, about 0.2 millimeters wide, but you would also need to do some experimentation, because even at 0.2 millimeters wide, our STL fixer may actually clean that up. By the way, you want to talk about weirdness inside the system. We have had a couple of situations where like STLs are not fully merged, because like people will export like a Tinkercad model and like the 2 blocks are touching but are not like truly touching, and they could and they'll be merged, and then other people just put stuff really close together and that could merge together if it's too close. So this is one of the weirdnesses of like, where do we turn that knob of the threshold between tight tolerance versus bad STL? Because we certainly don't want to fuse everybody's bearings together, and we most certainly don't want to unfuse somebody's monolithic part. So that's one of the problems of running a manufacturing system like Teleport. That decision. Question. I agree. No ABS. What are the best replacements? ASA. Easily. ASA is way better than ABS. Exactly equivalent mechanical features and more UV resistant. I have no idea why ABS still exists. Kill it. ASA. Done. Also, a lot less outgassing, a lot less smell. The whole stuff. ASA is better. Question. Will you make a factory tour or have you already done one? And should I just keep scrolling further down? Yeah, we've done factory tours. We have, the first move in here to our mega farm. We did a full floor walk showing off the empty space. And I think there's even a time lapse of us installing like the first few machines or so. And then anytime you see B-roll of machines flying by, that's the mega farm here. Whenever we're shut down the factory for maintenance, which is maybe like once a month or so, we try to shoot out and film a bunch of B-roll so that we don't have to worry about proprietary parts on the machines. Question. How can you, with a straight face, finger wag a company as being unstable because of a politician's decision, and then 13 minutes later explain how a missing screw can shut down a production line? Just combine the two thoughts. You have a missing screw because of a politician's decision. If you can deal with it, great. If not, then it's cause major problems. I can do that perfectly straight-faced. When operating a business, in the context of this example, he's talking about the fact that I said that in the context of tariffs, you shouldn't care about it because you can't control it. And companies that are being hurt by the tariffs should have been prepared for it. Versus the conversation where I said everything will go wrong inside of a business, which are kind of two separate things. Any company that was surprised by the tariffs is not following the premise that anything will go wrong in your business. If you understand that everything will go wrong in your business, then you will build it strong enough to be able to deal with that. People who have fragile businesses are fragile because they presume to know the future and believe that everything that they currently have will continue to stay the same. And that is never the case. Robust businesses presume that everything is going to be chaotic and whatever they have today is going to break or be different tomorrow. Therefore, they're preparing for some set of scenarios. They prepare as much as possible. It doesn't mean that you set up walls for a flood and make your house fireproof, but it means you put a fire extinguisher in the house and you have a pump in the basement. You have some minimal preparation for it in case it happens, as opposed to having no preparation for it. Example of no preparation, having really low margins so that when tariffs show up, you cannot survive a mild price increase of your raw materials. That is poor planning. So that's the delineation there. Also, there's the separation between known uncontrollables and unknown uncontrollables. A known uncontrollable is politics, the weather, how many customers will come in the door tomorrow. Well, not even that one. The weather and politics. I have no control over what a politician will do. I have any more than I have control over how many clouds will be in the sky tomorrow. So you don't even rely on those things. You take them off the board. Whether the politicians raise tariffs doesn't matter to you. Whether they lower tariffs doesn't matter to you. You do what you do. Versus unknown uncontrollables, which are blindsiding things. Our production manager died yesterday. The guy who knows how to run that machine had a flat tire coming into work, or his wife just had a baby. Or, yes, that supplier went out of business after 10 years. All of those are unknown uncontrollables. However, again, talking about the robust business, you should build in redundancies. Those are things you can be aware of. If you are building a factory, you know that one of your suppliers will screw up. Case in point, our spools are delayed from our spool manufacturer for Tangled. They are delaying shipping of Tangled. What are we doing about it? We're going to get another spool manufacturer so that when they say, ah, shucks, we say, lost the deal, going over here to these guys. You prepare for it. As you take those hits, you adjust and change them. Because when the screw is missing, I can go get the screw from someplace else. So that is you turn that uncontrollable, that unknown uncontrollable. Somebody died. Okay, well, we need a spare person there from now on. You take that unknown uncontrollable and turn it into a controllable. We're going to have 2 people standing there who know how to do that machine. We're going to train 3 people how to run that machine. We're going to get 2 different suppliers for this. You build in redundancy when you recognize that that redundancy is necessary. I cannot have a redundant government. I can't say, oh, that president's messing it up. I want this different president for today. No, you can't do that. Therefore, it's a totally different scenario. That is the difference between that. I can absolutely, with a straight face, make that delineation. Any company that was whacked by tariffs is a fragile company because, number one, that wasn't even unknown. Everybody knew that was going to happen because he has said that was what was going to happen forever. Nobody knew he was going to change his mind 2 days later. But anyhow, again, that's why you just don't engage with it. Nothing I do in the operation of my business will affect how tariffs are implemented or how some law comes down or how Facebook does their content moderation or how YouTube does this thing or how Shopify decides to share their stock or whatever it was. I don't care. Those things that I have no effect on, don't spend any time on. It's not worth it. I have not had a discussion with anybody in our company about tariffs other than to say, is there some way we can leverage this in this moment? No? Cool. We're moving on with our life. Does it hurt us in any way? No, we knew it was coming. Cool. We're moving on with our life. 5 minutes. We did not share news stories. We did not wax philosophical. We did not predict recessions coming up. We're just like, that happened today, and moved on with our lives. But then, when our spools were delayed by our supplier, we started shopping and Googling new suppliers. And then we said, okay, what can we do to get those spools right here? What are alternative spools that we can use to get the stuff out on time? That's what we did. So yeah. There's no amount of hypocrisy in that. You control the stuff you can control. You ignore the stuff you can't control. Okay, let's see here. That's questions. I'm hitting button. Hey, look at that. We have, fancy. This standing desk. That's podcast, guys. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer around anything around what we do at Slant 3D or any of those other sorts of topics, comment down below. Question: what your question is. Otherwise, we're not going to see it. We don't do random questions in the comments. You have to follow the format. But if you have any questions, bring those up. If there's any topics that you want us to go into depth on, quite frankly, you can still ask that as a question, and I'll talk about it for 12 years, apparently. So that'll be fine. But alrighty, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Have a good one.